Tilcon, New York. Welcome to our Safety Leadership Series. Back in May of 2020, we had a four-part Safety Leadership Series that we went through with everybody. And just to remind you, the four segments were Principles of Being a Leader in Safety, Tilcon, New York, Environmental Health Safety Security Operating System, dealing with risk assessments, and then incident reporting and investigations. Well, we're going to follow through on incident reporting and investigations just to kind of go through a practice, if you will. All right. So just as a reminder, an incident then is defined as an unplanned event, not necessarily injurious or damaging, but it interrupts some kind of completion of an activity. A near miss then is an act or condition that under different circumstances may have resulted in injury, property damage, process harm, or harm to the environment. And then a hazard, condition or set of circumstances that has the potential to cause an undesirable event. So a near miss then is basically a hazard in action. So near misses are it's not an incident where someone got hurt, no matter how minor, or the environment was damaged. Something actually happened. An incident where equipment was damaged requiring repair, or some kind of unsafe behavior or an unsafe condition. An unsafe behavior is typically people-related. Somebody climbs a ladder with a wrench in their hand, so they don't have that three-point contact. An unsafe condition is usually, equipment-related. A wrench is discovered hanging from the edge of a platform. Now let's just go through an example. So I brought my good friends, a couple of Lego guys and a couple of guys, I'm not sure where these guys were from, but they just happened to be walking through the facility. So here you are. You're driving a forklift, and you look up on the mezzanine, and you see Bob the builder, and you see a crescent wrench hanging over the edge of the mezzanine. So by you recognizing that, that's a hazard. That's a hazard wreck. You contact Bob. You say, hey, Bob, there's a crescent wrench hanging over the side. Can you pick that thing up? So Bob reaches down, he gets it, he puts it back in his tool belt. That's a hazard recognition. We were able to recognize the hazard, and we were able to do something about it. Now, if Bob is working there, and that crescent wrench falls and misses the guy in the black outfit, that's a near miss. Doesn't hit him, it strikes the ground, it doesn't chip the ground. All right, so there's nothing needs to be repaired, nobody's been injured, but that crescent wrench has now had some kind of action. That's a near miss. And then finally, an incident would be obviously if this crescent wrench fell and hit or struck one of the people on there, or you're driving by with the forklift, it strikes the forklift, maybe damages the hydraulic line, and there's a leak, and so on and so forth. So that's the difference. You have a hazard recognition, hazard wreck. You have a near miss, falls, doesn't hit anybody, doesn't hurt anything. And once again, an incident is when there's a strike, there's a direct hit. So some of the definitions with regards to causes, a direct cause is the event that happens just prior to the incident or the near miss. The causal factors that we look at are accidents or hazardous conditions that could have resulted in an event. These need to be analyzed to get to the root cause. And then the root cause, finally, is the basic reasons leading to an unsafe act or unsafe condition, the causal factors. The root causes are usually determined from the analysis of the event. That's why we do events learnings. That's why we ask you to do incident investigations. So some of the criteria definitions that we have, and I'm not going to put a lot of time into this, there's recordable injuries, when somebody goes and has to seek outside medical attention, professional medical attention for their injury. Citations, when OSHA or MSHA shows up on site and they write citations for us. From an environmental standpoint, it would be what they call notice of violations or NOVs. Inspection days, when the OSHA, MSHA are on site, the days that they're on site, we count them. Vehicle incidents, we have a couple. We have preventable vehicle incidents, and these are vehicles that are owned or leased to Tilcon, New York. Anything involving a licensed, registered over-the-road vehicle has to be reported no matter how or where the incident occurs. And then yellow iron incidents, obviously an event that happens with a yellow iron piece of equipment. Most of the times, in fact all the times, these incidents are happening on our facilities or actually on a construction job site. And then you have serious incidents. Some examples are a person working on a machine which is not de-energized, basically violating life-saving rules that we have. Personnel working at heights who's not following the equipment, they don't have the fall protection on, They're not using the mobile platform or scaffolding, and then they're working at heights that are specifically prohibited. Working in trenches, working in confined spaces where rescue procedures were used, burns resulting from contact with a hot material. Those are examples of what we consider serious incidents or serious injuries. So incident reporting involves either injuries, anything from a minor, kissing a Band-Aid, as I like to call them, to a fatality. The environmental, if we've done some damage or some harm to the air, the water, land. Transportation, we have some kind of incident with regards to our fleet or our delivery. Property damage, fire, vandalism, some kind of damage to our equipment. We have some kind of process upset, chemical, mechanical, structural. And then any kind of security event that we have. We have a lot of trespassing at our facilities, so that's a security breach. Workplace violence, some kind of technology breakdown. If somebody was to hack into our systems, that's a security breach as well. So practical investigations, we really take a look at some of the incident factors, the human factors. And we're going to talk about this with human performance as we get further into that. Management systems, there was some kind of breakdown in the system that allowed this situation to happen. The situational work factors, it might be equipment, it might be tools, materials, and then the environmental aspect, whether it's physical, got temperature, noise, the chemical aspects, whether you're dealing with smoke, fumes, dust, mist, and then biological, which can deal with either bacteria or some kind of fungus. So good investigation, what are we looking for a good investigation? Well, we want to see that, first of all, we do the best that we can to develop good, sound recommendations. It identifies potential hazards in similar conditions. It may take a little bit of research. You may have to go back and take a look at it, or we do a research on to see if this has happened in other type of situations. And it helps us to guide our policies, procedures, standards. We may have to make changes, possibly to like a lockout program or a confined space program. Those are the type of things that we look at. And then it dispels misunderstanding or the gossip mill. We want to make sure that people just understand the facts of what happened. Employees want to know that, why the incident happened and what are we doing about it to make sure it doesn't happen again. And there's plenty of ways that we communicate these incidents. We have monthly reports, toolbox talks, safety committee meetings, site-wide safety meetings that occur each month. We use the intranet. We have the Northeast Division, CRH. A lot of times we'll get incidents shared from some of our sister companies, and then the trade associations that we have through the construction, through the asphalt. That's important that we share as well. So we look at why employees do not report incidents. Well, some don't report it because there's a fear of discipline. They think they're going to be written up or worse. Concerned about the record or reputation. I've been working for 20 years, never had an incident before. Why would I break my reputation just from a scratch on my finger? Fear or dislike of medical treatment. I can't say I'm one to like going to the doctor, but some people just have that fear or dislike of medical treatment. They just don't trust doctors. Avoidance of red tape. Just like any other organization, we have a series of red tape just like anybody else. And then a poor understanding of importance. Sometimes people don't understand why it's important for them to report things to us. So really, that's to me, that's the worst thing about it is that when people don't report stuff, and then we find out later on, sometimes somebody will get a cut on their hands and ends up being infected. So things end up much worse. So pretty simple. Why, who, where, what, and when. Why should we investigate? Obviously, prevent reoccurrence. Who should be involved? It all depends on the severity of the incident itself. Probably 95% of the incidents can be handled right on the site, right on the shift. Supervisor takes the information and they're able to do something about it right then and there. Short term, and if there's any long-term changes that they have that we have to make, that's where the other folks get involved. Where should it be? Should do it at the scene of the incident, if possible. As long as there's not, explosions and fires and everything else going on to put anybody in jeopardy. But it really should be at the location. And then what should we be investigating? Just the facts. That's all we're looking for. Fact finding, not fault finding, not blaming the person involved. All of that stuff comes through if we do a good investigation, and then lead us up to develop the corrective actions. And we should do this as soon as physically possible. Because time is of the essence with regards to some of these incidents. Basically, 9 steps of an incident investigation. The incident or a near miss occurs, we ask people to notify their supervisor, lead man, manager immediately. If we have to carry out any emergency actions, we contact 911 if necessary. We secure the incident scene as best as we possibly can. Want to make sure we're not putting anybody else in any kind of jeopardy. If you got to barricade it, yellow tape it, whatever you got to do to make sure that you secure that incident scene. And then identify witnesses. If somebody was working there, if you go out to a job site and there's 2 people that showed up, did they witness it or not? You want to ask those questions. We want to gather evidence, photos, personal protective equipment that was used, risk assessments that might have been filled out, pre-shifts, tools, equipment, anything that was involved in that incident. Please do not move that equipment until an investigation is fully done. And then submit the initial, conduct your interviews and document if possible. And then submit initial report prior to the end of the shift into the quick base. And I'm going to go through that here just in a second. And then work with your line of business leadership and obviously the safety group in order to determine the events learning. We want to do an investigation usually within 3 days for a full-blown investigation. Develop corrective actions and then follow up on the incident report corrective actions so we follow them all the way through completion. This is what we're looking for with regards to the incident report. I'm not going to go through it all, but we're looking for the date and the time, location, type of injury or damage. You may not know that cost originally. That may be something that we have to go through to figure out what the cost would be. Basically what happened, how the incident occurred, the primary contributing causes, any corrective actions that you've developed, and then who is responsible to put those corrective actions in place. One thing is that we have had some personal health issues over the last year or so. I want to give a shout out to Alice with regards to the training that she has provided to Tilcon New York for a number of years with regards to people with first aid, CPR, AEDs, because it really has been a blessing over at least the time that I've been with the organization. We've probably had about 5 or 6 of these incidents, and the guys on the shop floor, their responses have really made a difference. So for personal health issues, please contact 911. If we can't handle the situation, if the purchase is unconscious, inform the 911 dispatcher, what you can, relay that information. Please write up an incident report. Please do not include the name and personal information on the incident report, because what ends up happening, those incident reports go out, it's distributed to about 250 people, and we want to make sure that we're not putting anybody's personal information out there. If they have a personal health issue, obviously we've dealt with it, but we don't want to spread that all the way to everybody. And then keep it simple for documentation purposes. Sometimes it won't affect us in the long haul, but we want to make sure that we document that it happened on our site. Basic information in there, and once again, please don't include the name and any personal information on the report. So the specific evidence that we take a look, that we're asking you for, minimum requirement where applicable, the employee witness statements, any photographs that you could take, equipment settings, if the machine was set at at some kind of temperature gauge, please make sure you capture that. Any tested or test damage equipment, we want to determine the failure causes. If it's a piece of large equipment, we'll call in the heavy equipment gang to take a look at it. If any samples were taken, if it can be done safely. Any logbook entries, work instructions, instrument data, maintenance records, anything that we could utilize to make sure that we can prevent this from happening again. Interviewing principles, it's always best if there's more than one person involved to try and interview them separately. It's, I want to call it, sometimes you get 4 or 5 people in a room, and I'll just use, for example, the alpha male will speak up and nobody else will want to talk. All right, they don't want to say anything, they want to pull you aside later on, and we don't want that. So try and take enough time, make sure you have enough time to do this effectively. Make sure the person feels comfortable. It's not the Spanish Inquisition. All we need to do is ask them questions. What did they see? What did they witness before, during the incident, and immediately following? That information is vital to us. So when you move people, if you take people separately, you're going to get their interpretation of what happens. If you put everybody in a group setting, you're going to have people talking different ways. Like I said, once again, you may have one strong personality, and you might not get everything that you need. Try to listen more than you talk, and just take key notes. What I'll say when I go through and do the investigation, when I'm interviewing somebody, I'll just say, hey, I'm just going to write down a few key words. That way here, I'm not scripting everything that the person is saying, because that makes people feel like it's an inquisition. You don't want to do that. And then what I'll do is I'll repeat back to them what they said, what I think they said, to make sure that I have the information accurate. Well, I saw that you you climbed 3 steps to get up into there. No, I actually climbed 2 steps. So you don't want misinformation onto the report. So, this is out there. I'm going to send this presentation with this. Want to make sure, there's certain key phrases with regards to incident types, what it was contacted by, personal factors, job factors, some things that are unsafe behaviors and unsafe conditions. There's a lot here that I'm not going to go through, but, there's 4 subgroups of causal factors, supervision and leadership, from the employee aspect, from the equipment aspect, and then with the environment itself. Just a quick example, a forklift punctured a 55-gallon container with hazardous material in it. Fumes were released from this 55-gallon drum, caused the driver to basically fall off the forklift, hitting his head on the shop floor. Okay, so the person was overcome. So some of the direct causes: the forklift punctured the chemical container. The driver was not secured inside the frame of the forklift. Basically, he or she was not wearing their seatbelt. So some of the causal factors: the driver could not control the direction of the forklift because the shop floor was very slippery. He had trouble seeing. He had some vision problems. The material containers were stored in the wrong location, and the driver was not wearing, obviously, his seatbelt. And then the root causes determined from the investigation. We'd take a look at the training aspect. The driver was not properly trained on the forklift. So we had somebody, not certified driving a piece of equipment. The procedures and policies were inadequate. The floor was not required to be kept dry. Training, the driver certification criteria was not adequate. We did not include some kind of vision test. Policy enforcement, the hazard materials should not have been stored outside the proper area. And then the policy with a compliance aspect, the driver chose not to wear the seatbelt. So there's a lot of pieces that come out of that very simple statement. So we talked about the operating system itself. I'm not going to get into each one of these, but I just want to let you know there's a lot in our operating system that you kind of take a look back at. So some of the common holes in the operating system execution, we have siloed departments, incident investigations, only a safety function. And I've said this before, it's not just the safety department. When you have an incident at your location, it's your incident. You own the incident. We are going to help you with the resources. We're going to help you, kind of get through it. But you have the responsibility to oversee the investigation of the incident itself. Lack of visibility of critical knowledge. This is kind of the way we've done things in the past. We really don't have any kind of uniformity. We have a data overload, and then sometimes reliance on reactive problem solving. Oh, that happened last week. Well, what did we do about it last week? Well, we really didn't get to do anything about it, and then we've had a reoccurrence. So like I said, sometimes an incident ends up happening, and to me that's like a breakdown in our management system. So we've had some kind of breakdown to allow this incident to happen. So once again, not going through all of these, but even looking at the 8 elements of our operating system, there's certain things that we could tie back to the incident itself. So these are just examples with regards to this. Okay, so taking a look at a very simple, once again, you have a fall from heights. Okay, some of the precursors, some of the things we take a look at, it's a big type of incident from a frequency. It doesn't really happen very often. And then from a consequence, it has a big consequence with regards to somebody falling from heights. Possibly not wearing their safety gear. So they might have been in a hurry. It might not have fit. Maybe they don't know how to operate that. So, maybe there's some problems that we have with regards to fatigue and training and stress. Okay, maybe we had inadequate safety gear. it was not properly connected. Maybe it wasn't connected, didn't have a good anchor point. And maybe that harness was worn out. Maybe he didn't do a good inspection of that equipment. Maybe we didn't train him to do a good inspection. So, with that being said, the how factors of an incident investigation, once again, you're notified of the incident, assemble with any kind of investigation tools that you need. You might need to measure something. You may need to, obviously, you're going to need your cell phone or a camera if you have it. Carry out any emergency actions. The employee is the most important thing at the time. You want to make sure that you take care of that. Secure the incident scene, identify the witnesses, gather your information, and then conduct your interviews, and then finalize your incident report, and then develop corrective actions, and then we have to follow up on that. And then all incidents and near misses must be reported. That's really important for us. We need to investigate as soon as possible. Need to be doing that before the end of your working shift. Use the recognized methods that we have in order to get the causal and the root causes. Focus on the evidence and the facts. Take a robust approach to conducting investigations. Just don't do it half-baked, because you're not going to get all the information that you need. And implement effective short-term corrective actions with long-term prevention to avoid recurrence. That's where we're going to help you out from that long-term piece of it. But you can handle those short-term mitigations right then and there. So the measurements that we ask for is reporting and investigations completed on time. Once again, the report has to come in before the end of the shift. You should be doing that initial investigation prior to the end of that working shift. Investigations identify the causal factors, identify prevention strategies, and the prevention strategies are initiated or implemented. Okay, so that's that part of it. One other thing I want to go through with you is getting to the incident database with regards to QuickBase. So I get through it from here. There's a few different ways, so I go to Tilcon, New York. Now, I will tell you, my program is a little bit more broader because I have a few more pieces to it. So let's say we're going to do initial incident report. So you're going to go on here, and you want to new record, okay? So it's me. We can do a sample here. Today's date is the 24th. Pretty incident, pretty simple. Let's just call it, what time is 1750. Okay, company. It's going to show all the companies because I'm on it, but you would just have Tilcon, New York. Let's just say it happened in the quarry. Incident type, a personal injury, no violation, so we'll leave that alone. No, we don't need to notify anybody. All right, so the incident type, incident location type, it was in the plant name. No offense to David and his team, but let's just say it happened at Mount Hope in the quarry. All right, to the employee involved, we do it by employee number, so you look up the employee number. We'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was the employee involved in overtime? Yes or no? So if he was not involved in overtime, we're going to hit no. Supervisor name, David Reimers. Okay, this is just an example. There was no third parties involved. And let's just say, so I've given the 3 scenarios. So the employee was hurt, was performing hot work, and a piece of slag went down his sleeve, okay? And ended up burning his wrist. So we obviously had to send him off for medical attention. So there's a couple ways I've seen where people put in something simple like employee burnt by slag. Okay, that's not exactly telling us what we really need. Sometimes somebody will put in, while performing hot work, employee did not pay attention and carelessly burnt his wrist. Employee was told prior to starting work to make sure he was cutting slag at the proper angle. Okay, now we're putting blame on somebody. Keep in mind, these incident reports are legal documents. So please, your opinion, while very important, should not be put down onto here. So let's put down employee performing hot work when piece of slag. Oh, let me help Mr. Cacavelli spells right. Entered his glove and burnt his wrist. Okay? Tells us everything that we need to know with regards to that. All right, there was no equipment number. Hospitalizational required? No, but we did send him off to the doc. We did send him over to the ER. Police or emergency services involved? Yes. We had them come in. Chilton Emergency Room, Chilton Hospital. Okay. Police or emergency department, Wharton Police Department. Okay, accident report completed. Yes, I've completed the initial report. Okay, employee drug tested. Yes. Okay, drug test date would be today. Drug test facility, Chilton, Hospital. Okay, that's all we're looking for. Then you hit save and close. It goes off and it gives us a number. I'm going to cancel this here in a second, but that's what we're looking for. Something very simple like that. When you're putting in the incident report, please capture all the information. Get all the information that you actually need for the investigation. The investigation piece, I'm not going to go through because if I hit this, it'll bring up all that information. But that's very simple. What we're looking for with regards to incident reporting and what we're looking for you to put into the QuickBase data system. All right. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to reach out to me and be more than happy to discuss it. Thank you.